Welcome to day 11 of Black History Month. And today's topic is going to focus on Americans are not a monolith. No, Americans are not one and the same. Americans are diverse. And this understanding needs to be understood. This myth, this illusion that America at its core is white. And today we're going to talk about it and how this myth, this illusion is ingrained in this country's founding history. This idea that America was always white, that America was always based on one religion, that America is just of them and not all. And the understanding of that is rooted in the founding of the history of this country and the policies of corporations and the policies of government and how we're marketed and targeted and advertised through corporations and within our leadership. And this illusion, that we have been fighting since the ending of slavery, right? And then with Jim Crow era and emancipation, and then Jim Crow era, and then out to civil rights era, and still first and forthcoming to where we are now. It's just this never ending illusion that Americans are a monolith. And that needs to stop right here and right now. Data is clear that the non-white population of the US has nearly doubled since 1990. Even that understanding as well. And non-Hispanic white residents now make up to about close to, I think it says, my notes here, it says half, if not all, of Americans. So this understanding that there is not, but what is assumed, or what is wanting to believe, or this idea, or this newfound push to bring this illusion to some sort of truth, the audacity of it, as my shirt says, the audacity of it, to even bring this ideology back into the forefront of as if it's true. It just needs to be stopped, and it needs to be stopped not now, because we've been trying as a country to move away from this type of understanding, right? Our families, our parents have been dragging us to this new future, fighting hard for it, to have the understanding that Americans are not a monolith. We are all different in our own way, and we need to express and embrace that. Hello. Thank you for joining me. We need to express that, and we need to continue to push for that. I think people think just because that we have these rights that it doesn't need to be said. But yes, it does need to be said. That's the only way we can move past this illusion and this hateful mindset of the past, and why the past keeps creeping back forward into our present, and then also sadly into our future, right? Because the future really is just tomorrow. We wake up, right? And that's the future. So if we're not able to deal with this now, it is already a part of our future. And that's something we have to really, 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 really work hard on moving forward and ending this illusion, this myth, this unfound truth that we are all, that isn't a monolith, that is only for what is white, or what is even Christian, right? The understanding that Americans are only Christian. So even that understanding as well, when America is a monolith. It was not, even those that were founding this country, they were running from persecution because of what and who they were. So to even try to create this idea of something that is based on only you when you were running, and you take from what was already here, because we can't forget the indigenous. We can't forget that. So you can't come claim another land and ignore what was already there, and then recreate it as in your likeness, as if that which was before you never existed, and that was what before you was an illusion in itself, even though it was real. And it's still real to this day. The damage that has been done and the damage that has trickled down to generations, and why this country has the problems that it has, because it's built on all of that type of hate, that continuous hate that continues to fester and grow within different sects and aspects of the founding of this country. And then it trickles down and into the people that we are now today. And it's 6'7". Yes, I do it all the time. That's how I talk. uh, I know, but yes, that's why it's so. That's why it's such an important thing to understand that we are not a monolith. What makes us great is our differences and our beliefs, and that's what makes us creative and innovative, and it allows us to be competitive. But when we try to lump us all into, as we are supposed to be one, that we all look the same, not one person looks the same. Even if we all were white, we still wouldn't look the same. Somebody's going to look different in some way. Someone's hair is going to be a different color. Someone's eyes are going to be a different color. Even how you come up with your freckles and all that type of stuff. So the idea that just humans in general are a monolith, then to trickle it down to just because we're focusing on Black history and how we can better ourselves in this country and the nation and our future, and moving forward, learning from the lessons of the past, such as with Black history, is the idea that what makes us different is what makes us great, right? And that idea is what helps us to push forward to a better world, the acceptance of all, and the willingness, hey, thank you for joining me, and the willingness to embrace that and not fear that. And then the understanding of not fearing that allows for opportunities for all of us. And then if there's opportunities for all of us, then we can move forward with new and healthier and more creative ways to live. That's all it really boils down to. But we can't really do that if we're too busy hating on somebody because they're different, or we're not wanting to admit the wrongs of the past. And that's why it's important to, since we're focusing on Black History Month for this segment, this month, is to learn from the past. And to learn from the past is to recognize that we once were hated, that hate once was there. And sadly, it still has followed us into the future in our current present, but that hate was always there. The understanding of hate based on differences, the discrimination, and that hate due to discriminatory and biased beliefs is what drove evil and caused evil and tragedy, not just for Black people, but for other brown people as well, for others that were not white. And that is something that needs to be understood. And even that, for those that were white, it also happened to them too, as well. We have to forget, because they also were suffering if they weren't wealthy. They were also in servitude, right alongside slaves. So it's not just about, it's differences based on social class and also race. And I think that that's something that gets lost when we look back to the past, even though we have to recognize that, yes, slavery was real and slavery was there, but there also was different levels of slavery. And it's still happening today. The slavery when it comes to social class. And that's still highlighted today in our present. And of course, slavery based on race. So you have class and race. So the discrimination is not just based on discriminatory based on race and ethnicity, but it's also on social class. It's also on religion and different beliefs, and the understanding that only a few can maintain and hold power. So that is the lessons that we need to learn from the past, and we have to stop following us currently, that's in our future, us currently in our present, and following us, because it's going to be here with us tomorrow, into our future. That's what we need to learn from not only Black History Month, but just the past in general, and not bringing those beliefs with us into the future. Recognizing that we should not focus on what makes us different, but focus on what makes us great. And understanding that what makes us great is our differences, and that's what helps to shape America. That's what helps to make America great. That's what helps to make us as humans great, right? Because the idea is to move forward as one. But for some reason, people like the divisiveness because divisiveness gives them power, right? So we have to learn to understand that we cannot allow those that are in power to separate us as humans, to divide us as humans, all based on differences. Because in reality, it's just an illusion. Those differences, those differences are not necessary. You're only focusing on them because you're focusing on a way to maintain power and to uphold power. And that's something that we need to unalign ourselves with. To unalign ourselves with this story that America is just for the few. That the benefits of America and the ideology of America and the ideas of that are for the few. It is not, it is for all. And that starts with not being discriminatory, not hating people because they're different, not focusing on people because they're different, not believing that others can't do something because they're different. These biased thoughts, those are things from the past that we've allowed to follow us into our present day life and into our future. And it is now shaping how we raise our children, how corporations even market to us, even how jobs are provided and operated, even in the technology that we use, the algorithms, and how, depending on what you're speaking about, it can move or shift you. You're providing an opportunity or you're not providing an opportunity. So it's a lot that goes into it. Even me speaking on these Black History Month topics, it's off-putting. Some want to hear it, some don't want to hear it. But it is what it is. These are facts and they need to be spoken about. These are topics and issues that need to be addressed. And they need to be addressed on how we are going about and pushing forward in society. How are we to make change if we're still stuck in this disbelief and this ideology and this myth that was never true? It was never true. This myth that we're still holding on to, that isn't driving us into a positive way forward, but taking us back to the dark depths of the past. This belief that we are all one and the same and that we're all to be the same. We can't because we were not made in the same likeness. We are not made to be the same. So how can we be a monolith? Even if we all are the same race, we're still different in some way. We all look different, speak different, culture's different. It doesn't matter. So to assume that it has to be one is ignorant. And that ignorance is designed to keep people ignorant so that they can't move forward and be successful and innovative and creative on their own right, but to follow a pattern that's designed to instill hate and to continue the hate that is of the past, taking it into the future to continue to uphold. That's not something that's going to move us forward. That's not something that's going to take us forward. It's not something that's going to advance us. It's only going to continue to destroy. If we look at where we are in society, even down to like how we operate in our school systems, how we operate within even how businesses are structured, or not businesses, but infrastructure is structured, all of that. Nothing has really advanced since the 70s for this country. Nothing. And I truly believe, and I'm going to look up the statistics on that, but I truly believe it's because it's the continued idea that we are supposed to be a monolith. But for some reason, all the fighting and the activism and the things that have gone forward have allowed us to move forward, but it hasn't pushed us further enough that we can be more creative and innovative. Yeah, technology wise, we're moving forward, right? But I think that's mainly because those types of things have been built on the need and the use of globalization. So it's more focused on those that are from outside of the country versus those that are already here. And that also comes from the systemic barriers that are in place. So the idea that people can't do something or they're not capable of understanding technology or contributing to technology or anything like that, and that's because of our education system and those that are being educated and those aren't. And we already know in underserved communities, those are the ones that are not looked to first. The assumption that they're incapable of doing something. And that comes from that same ideology of the monolith, of there can only be Americans that can do certain things, right? And that goes into the discrimination that we see within the tech field, that it's always someone of Asian descent or something like that. That's discriminatory. They're not the only ones, and there's so many other people that can advance and do things with technology or the understanding. And you see that in all different aspects of different career fields and stuff. Like I'm in HR, so it's assumed that only women do HR. That's a woman dominated field. That's an assumption. And that's a kind of a something that has been carried on from the past as well, that only women can do those types of jobs. So when I say monolith, it's and you can see how it feeds in and goes into how businesses are operated. And if businesses are operating in that way, that creates that continued bias thinking that trickles down into how we are. Sorry about that, it cut me off. But how we are marketed by corporations, and how corporations market to us, and how we even know what products are available to us. Even when we go down to the food we eat, depending on where you live, that grocery store is not going to have the same thing as that same grocery store on another side of town. So even that monolithic thinking of, oh, only this can be available in this area because they are true representation of us, right? Or this true understanding that only a true American would eat this. Like, what is American food? For real, like what is American food? Like, it could be anything, because Americans are not a monolith, right? I mean, yeah, you may have your heritage coming from somewhere else, but whatever's in America is a representation of everyone and where they're from. Because it's a created nation. You know what I mean? It's created. It's not something that was already existing. So the idea to assume that it is a monolith is just an illusion, and it makes no sense, because you can't have, say, an American ideology, but the ideology is based on other lands and other beliefs and other thoughts. And that's why it's America. That's why it's America, because that's what it was built for. And when we have this understanding that it's supposed to be this idea of lockstep, one idea, one belief, that's impossible. It's impossible, because even if we want to look at the founding fathers of this nation, they weren't from just one place. They were from other lands. So that means they had other cultures and other beliefs and other ideas. They didn't even all have the same religion, you know? They all, yeah, they may have all been coming from a European area, but it wasn't the same. They were still not a monolith. If you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, yeah, you could say, oh, they're all white, right? They're all European, but they're still not the same. They still didn't hold everything the same, because there is no real thing. A monolith is an illusion. The illusion that if you're white, you're all the same. You're not. You're still having different beliefs. You're still having different ideologies and understandings and ways of thinking and going about, and just different cultural aspects of yourself and your beliefs in your past that have been inherited down to you. So that even when you look at it from that aspect, that illusion that is what America is, it also highlights how it is not true. And so if that's not true, how can we look at everyone and assume that that's what America is supposed to be? It can't be. And to think that is divisive and discriminatory, because it's not real. And every human, you're supposed to be different. We are not meant to be the same, you know? That's why we're human. No one is one and the same. So that understanding and that illusion is something that we have to learn to address. And us as leaders, we have to call that out when we see it. Hi, thank you for joining me, Eric. But yes, that is something that we need to speak about, carry, and stand up as leaders. We all are leaders, remember, and speak out and call that out, because there is no one superior race, superior, group, sect, whatever you want to call it. We are all human, and we are all meant to be different from one another. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea. We are different, and we have to learn to embrace these differences. And that can only occur when we stand up as leaders and call it out and address it. And then as those that are inspired by us or around us and watching us and believing in us, they'll see us acting as the leaders that we are, and they'll follow suit. And then that will continue to happen because we're being the change. We're helping to create the change. We're helping to usher in a new world so that we will no longer reinforce this illusion that Americans are a monolith and that it's all supposed to be lockstep and key, robotic, and we all look the same. We're all just the same. We're all doing the same, and we're just like this, and we're just like that, because that's an illusion. We are meant to be different. We're meant to be colorful. We're meant to be laughing and loud and embracing. Gonna have the quiet one and that. It's supposed to be different. Different. We're not supposed to be the same. And at the same time, we're not supposed to hate someone and judge someone. They are different. Why? Because we're not a monolith. That's the whole purpose of this nation. Even if it was stolen. The idea was to be different and to embrace differences. Of course, the tricklings of those racism and biases thoughts have followed their way through and always have. But that doesn't mean that we have to allow it to still continue and to follow us into the future. That's crazy. How are we going to effort if we can't let that go? And can't just not be afraid to breathe. Inhale differences, exhale acceptance. Well, I leave you with that thought. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow. And I want to thank everyone for joining me today. And remember to be the change. And until then, love yourself and others. Bye.